This is the Scorer to Follow podcast.
Hello, good evening and welcome to a Scorer to Follow special. It's deadline day. It's 9 p.m. Dan Laundy, the sound effects there. I am, of course, Neil Mundy. I have Dan Laundy, who just did that excellent noise opposite me. And Mark Allen's to my right.
Hello, I'm Jim White. Oh no, sorry, wrong show.
So we're all a bit D-Mob happy. It's Thursday night, transfer deadline day, August the 31st, 9 p.m. The transfer window is about to be taken out, back and shot in the head. But to get rid of those partridgeisms for a minute, we're going to try and assess something which is still twitching, but ultimately will be lying in a corpse on the floor very soon.
This is brutal.
I don't know where I'm going with this gory imagery. I don't even know why it's popped into my head. This one's not for the kids, but it is 9 o'clock and it's transfer deadline day. Gents, how has your transfer deadline day been?
Abysmal.
Mark, abysmal. Dan?
Oh, mine's been really good so far.
It's been good.
Well, reasonable compared to what it could have been.
So I think you're winning out of us. I'd say mine's sort of verging on mediocre to poor. So I think you're probably coming on top out of the three of us at the moment. But things can change. 2 hours left. Doesn't seem like anything's happening. But we are frantically refreshing the Twitter, and we have news websites aplenty. Well, one, which we are we're also refreshing to see if some last minute deals creep in, and if so, you will already know about them by the time this podcast goes out. But we're going to announce them anyway.
Dele Alli off to FC Midtjylland, or
it could happen.
It
Phil
could.
Coutinho nearly signed for Nantwich earlier. So,
breaking news.
breaking news.
First one.
Breaking news from Dan.
Gary Gardner has joined Barnsley
Oh,
on a season-long loan from Aston Villa.
a transfer for the ages.
It's a cracker,
There
isn't
you
it?
go.
That's got us going.
I can't imagine how Jim White's just announced that.
Oh, he'd be melting.
He'll be all over that, Jim will.
That set off the show just nicely. I can't wait for the rest of the show after that.
Yeah, it's only going to go downhill, and in fact, it is going to go downhill because we're going to talk about our respective transfer windows.
Can we start with Arsenal?
Mark, do you want to start with Arsenal?
Yeah.
Get it out of the
He's
way.
He's given me a very heavy look. Mark, let's talk about Arsenal's transfer window.
Well, a bit of a strange one. I guess the big one is Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has left to join Liverpool, that I'm sure Neil was very happy about.
Yeah, didn't say anything about it on this podcast previously.
Not much. To be fair, if he wanted to go, we've got to let him go. I think, to be honest, he's got 11 months left of his deal, and we've got the fee that's being reported is 35, maybe rising to 40, and I think that's good money for a person in the last year of his deal.
I suppose the thing is as well, and we can talk about how bad management it was to let 3 players run into the final year of their contracts. But the fact is, barring any massive last minute news, you've kept only 2 of those players. And if you wanted, I imagine, if you had to choose one of them to leave, it probably would be Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah, well, I like Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think he's a good player, but the problem we've had is we've had him 6 years and he's not really been fit a lot of the for the time of it. I mean, if he let's say he's gone to Liverpool, if Liverpool can keep him fit, you've got a hell of a player there.
Yeah.
But we just didn't see the best of him, unfortunately, and really you've got to give him a little bit of credit. The fact that we offered him a new deal, 180 grand a week, turned it down. Chelsea offered him the same amount of money per week, turned that one down because he was likely to be playing as a wing back that he didn't want to do. He's gone to Liverpool, apparently 125 grand a week, so he's obviously not gone for the money. He's obviously gone for football reasons, which there's very few players do these days. Unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's all fair enough and lovely, and he obviously wants to progress his career, I feel, but
Yeah, you can't blame him really.
But so there was obviously the Lamar business which has gone on this afternoon, which we can probably both talk about. It was very strange.
Sort of came out of the blue and then quickly went out again, didn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on then.
No, I'm just going to say that. I mean, the upshot of it all is you're keeping Alexis Sanchez, so you have to be pleased with that.
Yeah, but you can look at that from two sides, can't you? Because they'll keep him for the season, or possibly till Christmas, in the hope of it sort of gets you back into the Champions League, and then he's kind of paid for his own exit a little bit if you get back in. But also, you're letting 60 million essentially go possibly for free, which doesn't make any business sense. And you've got a player there who it doesn't seem to want to be there at all.
Well, yeah, it's been the whole just with Arsenal and contracts. It's been the planning has been awful.
Atrocious.
Yeah, the fact I think what's actually happened is they've decided at the last minute. They thought, okay, yeah, we'll take the money for Sanchez, but if we can get somebody else in, and then they've gone back in for Lamar. Must have got a bit of encouragement that he could be available. Then put in the bid, and then found out obviously it was too late in the day to actually complete any deal. And then now they're stuck with Sanchez. But I'm happy that he stayed. But you wonder what sort of state of mind he's in really, because I don't think he's one of these players really that just wouldn't try. I think he put 100% in every game, but at the same time, if he doesn't really want to be there, it's not going to be good for squad harmony.
He's got to get on with it though. I mean, that he's not going to be the only player left in the same boat. It looks like Van Dijk's going to be in the same boat. It looks like Coutinho's going to be in the same boat. At the end of the day, the window shuts and the players tend to forget about it and get on with it, and then January's January and you have to deal with it from there, don't you? But
is it like a reflection on where Arsenal seem to be from an external point of view, that players seemingly like Lamar have actually turned down the opportunity, despite the fact some of his French teammates have tried to cajole him in?
Went into his bedroom apparently.
Apparently so.
Yeah, I think there was
a bit raunchy.
Yeah, a bit dodgy. There was talk that he had in fact turned us down because he'd rather join Liverpool because they're playing in the Champions League.
Oh, okay, so that has come into play.
Whether or not that's something that did come out, whether or not could really sort of look into that. It is obviously possible because it is true. Also, we're not in the Champions League for a while.
The other thing about Arsenal that it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit because of all the talk of Sanchez, will he, won't he, is Ozil. Now Ozil's in the same position as Sanchez, and no one seems to have even been interested in having a sniff around him. And bearing in mind he's obviously very good with his assists and stuff. Or at least he has been in 2 of the past 3 seasons. I find it really strange. It suggests to me something's not quite right with Ozil and people don't want to take a chance on him.
I heard Nantwich Town made an inquiry.
They're buying up everybody.
Didn't they go for Coutinho as well?
Yeah.
They're going to have some midfield.
Tapping them up.
You're right, obviously, because he is in the same boat. But I think the fact that he's really been the sort of a kind of a scapegoat, isn't he, for Arsenal's poor form, and it's just obviously if Arsenal are not playing well and he's not playing well, it's just obviously his body language, and teams probably look at that and think, well, okay, so they're probably thinking that if he doesn't sign a new deal and he comes as a free transfer in the summer, he's a good free transfer to have, but if the money that Arsenal probably want for him, we're not willing to pay that.
But if somebody had come in with the same offer they'd made today for Sanchez for Ozil, would you have let him go immediately without sort of really batting an eyelid, or is he worth more to the club than that?
I think Sanchez is worth more to the club than.
Oh yeah, I don't dispute that. But is Ozil? Would you just snap the money? Would you take someone's arm off, or is he worth sort of persevering with? Because people seem to get quite frustrated with him.
I think he's worth persevering with, but at the same time, I think it's the same sort of thing. If we accepted any bid for him, we need to get somebody in as a replacement.
Yeah.
But I'd say he's more disposable. I would say.
Yeah.
It's a gut feeling, nothing more. But I've just got this feeling that Ozil sort of quite happy where he is, and in fact, might even stay at Arsenal.
Might sign a new deal.
I think he might. I don't. And listen, it's based on really nothing other than like speculation and looking at the player's past histories. He went to Real Madrid. It wasn't an altogether positive experience, although he did well there to a degree. But and I wonder if he thinks, well, actually, I'm quite happy where I am. I'm quite content, and perhaps he'll just sign a new deal. Obviously Oxlade-Chamberlain's gone now, but out of the three who were on those, their last year, he strikes me as one who would be most sort of amenable to staying.
Yeah, I think he's quite happy living in London, and just I think he's just quite settled where he is really, and then really for that reason, I don't really think he's actively looking to leave. It's just a case of he wants the money. Well, like I say, he wants the money he wants.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if Ozil's too settled in a way. He's kind of fallen into that trap of becoming comfortable.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly might be right. He may maybe not stuck in a rut's a harsh phrase, but very settled in.
Could say maybe if he's too comfortable, maybe that's maybe he's affecting his form. If he's just like that, he's not sort of pushing himself too much, and he's like I say, he's out on the pitch, and his style is a very sort of laid back sort of language style anyway, isn't it? And like I say, if he's too like settled and a little bit too laid back, then it's kind of like I say, it's going to affect his performances, I think.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the ins as well, because you've only signed two real senior players, but Lacazette, I think, still gives you a really good option. Slightly confused as to why he didn't use him at the weekend, but all the other signing actually, Kolasinac.
Yeah, they're both
quite good.
Both looked good signings. We have just to quickly just go back to outgoings as well. We have, and what we needed to do is get rid of some of the sort of like the fringe players, which we have managed to get rid of some of them. Kieran Gibbs gone to West Brom. Lucas Perez has just gone out today on loan to go back to his former club, Deportivo.
You kept Mustafi in the end.
Mustafi stayed in the end.
That was
seemed an odd one. But.
That was a weird one because we sold Gabriel, which Gabriel sort of solid defender, but sort of behind all the rest. So if we're going to sell anyone, him. And then there was also talk about Mustafi going. I was like, well, if we sell him as well, then we're going to be left really short with senior centre backs.
Well, I wondered if you were going to try and it doesn't seem to be likely now because Mustafi's staying. But I wondered if I still had this feeling that loads of people were going to converge on Virgil van Dijk at the last minute, including Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I wondered if Arsenal was going to be one of those clubs. It doesn't look like it's going to happen now, but I wondered if that or Johnny Evans was the other name mentioned, obviously.
Yeah.
In dispatches, if Mustafi had left, but
I don't really know what the thinking with Mustafi was, like whether or not something going on behind the scenes. Wenger was trying to bomb him out, and then the fact he's now staying. How does Mustafi feel about that? Or so we don't really know how that come about. Whether or not Mustafi's saying he wants to leave, or like Arsenal just said, we're going to listen to offers for you. It's kind of a weird one.
It's a small thing to read into, but they panned into the bench at one point at the weekend, and Mustafi was sat just behind Wenger, and Wenger was sort of obviously speaking out loud to his assistants, and you could see the look that Mustafi appeared to be sort of aiming in his direction, and whether that's just because he was dropped for the weekend or whether they were just a bit, looking to exit. But
we just was going to give him a terrible Chinese burn or something.
At the end of the day, he's staying, and there's like another one. Like I say, he's staying at the club. He's got knuckle down, and whatever happened, he's got knuckle down and proving himself to get back into the first team.
Well, I mean, there's an argument here to say that we know Arsenal haven't had the best start, but I mean they're a team that often starts slowly anyway. With the whole transfer stuff now out of the way, it could certainly be argued that there'll be a more cohesive team environment because long term perhaps players are looking elsewhere, but like we said, game by game, they've got to knuckle down and get on with it. They've got Bournemouth at home after the international break, so they've got to get on with the business of beating them as soundly and professionally as possible.
I know this is primarily a transfer pod, but you say that, and then you look at what happened at Liverpool at the weekend.
But that's still in this period, isn't it, where there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that all that gets resolved immediately, but it could be helpful to have the window.
Oh, I'm
shut.
sure it will. Yeah, it would, because everyone knows that this is where you are now for the time being. So you get your head down and play. But
I mean, just as an example, I think Liverpool's sort of patchy performance in the 3-3 draw at Watford is obviously mainly down to bad defending, but I think also the Coutinho transfer request going in the day before, these sort of things really don't help. And I think it affects morale. And I think you've seen that a bit with Arsenal. Obviously, Arsenal's problems run deeper than that, but I think you've seen it. I think having it out the way is no bad thing.
I'm sure that's true. I just look back to that one moment in particular where was it Oxlade-Chamberlain and Ramsey were on halfway, kind of having a little chat about going forward, and the ball was all but back in the Arsenal net again. It was really strange to see that they weren't focused on the game. They obviously weren't expecting to lose possession, but
no,
it was kind of schoolboy, wasn't it? If you did that playing in the park, you'd be embarrassed.
It was a slightly strange sight. You don't often see that on a professional football pitch big top levels. Anyway.
Still, hopefully, Lacazette will score lots of goals if he gets a game.
Well, yeah.
He just seems so
I'm sure
despondent.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he'll be back in. Well, I don't know what Wenger's thinking was that. He obviously thought that Danny Welbeck was a better fit, but like I say, you've just spent your record like transfer fee on a player, and then you head into a big game against one of your rivals, and he's on the bench. Doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a psychological thing, isn't it, as well? Because I was quite worried about Lacazette, and I was very pleased to see he was on the bench. So and you think, those team sheets go in as well, and our players must have seen that and thought, all right. You know what I mean? Like, Danny Welbeck. That's not to denigrate Danny Welbeck, who I think is a good forward, but that £50 million man who's got a decent turn of pace and good finisher. You're sort of quite pleased to see it, although it was tempered by the fact we're like, but Sanchez is playing, so it's swings and roundabouts, I suppose. But it did seem a strange one, that.
Yeah, it was just at the end of the day, that performance just a lack of discipline. We were just all over the place.
It was gutless, Mark. I mean, again, as a neutral, it was gutless.
Well, no, I was saying at the time of the thing, I was just saying, well, I used to play Sunday League football. I've seen better defending than that. From us in that game. But
again, nothing's changed from last season. I suppose we need to move on, and we could use that game as a nice little segue into Liverpool's positive transfer window.
Well, I suppose just I don't want to sound like a moaner, and I'm obviously going to take this position, but I think everyone focused on how poor Arsenal were, and they were, but I think we played really well. So I think I'm hopeful that Arsenal aren't the only team we do that to this season. So I think there's not leeway for Arsenal, but there was so much negative focus that people sort of forgot that. I mean, we'd just done the same to Hoffenheim. I'm not quite sure what Wenger saw and why he went for a 3 at the back when Hoffenheim had been so spectacularly. But anyway,
topically, sorry, Lamar has just scored an absolute worldie for France tonight. So
his price has gone up by 10 million. We're bidding 100 million for him now.
Well, I was thinking, will be. Yeah.
I still want to see that. I said in our chat earlier, I want to see him sign for somebody straight after the game. I literally whisked into a press conference. He's just given an Arsenal shirt or something like that. Wenger just appears from nowhere. Wonderful. But transfer window as a whole, yes, bit patchy. We're not getting Van Dijk. Lamar we came in for late, and it was always a bit. People were sort of devastated about the fact that we were getting a player that we'd only been linked with for 72 hours earlier. So that was bits and bobs. I wasn't too bothered about that. I think he's another attacking player to supplement attacking players that we already have.
Because I really don't think Liverpool need him.
Possibly not. I still do wonder if there was thoughts, and I know the club will vehemently deny this till the end of time, but whether they were thinking of signing him as a Coutinho replacement. And the fact is that moves along now. Coutinho will probably go to Barcelona next summer. Fingers crossed, of course, I have to say, because the Spanish window is open for another day, as we know. But I wonder if that was the plan, but doesn't seem to be. I did think he was a nice to have rather than an essential. Whereas Van Dijk is an essential. We've sold Sacco. We're down to 4 centre backs probably. So
we can only name 3. We had Matip, Lovren, and Klavan. Who did we miss?
Well, you missed Joe Gomez.
He really is a centre back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's been playing his trade at right back, but that does sort of give you a window into we're slightly thin on the ground there, and 1 or 2 injuries, and we could look a bit threadbare. So maybe we'll bring in a Stephen Corker style emergency loan signing again, but. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing not to get
Ryan Nelson. That's what Spurs did a couple of years ago.
Surely Harry Redknapp will have his eyes on him.
No, he's got Chris Samba.
Yeah, we could do. Well, I was saying, why don't we go in all guns blazing for Johnny Evans? And I almost did think it, but Klopp seems he wants his man and nothing else. And I wonder if nobody else comes in with a huge last minute bid for Van Dijk, whether they'll try and revisit it in January or whatever. But
he signed a long-term contract, didn't he? I think Van Dijk.
Yeah, he did about a year ago. So
which players should learn not to do if they have their intentions of moving on to bigger, better things at some point.
Well, or Coutinho's the same, isn't it? You put in a release clause, don't you? Because otherwise you're giving the clubs all the power. And we've seen with this window, it's a very strange window. It's sort of been a strange deadline day to end a strange window. Nobody really knows what anyone's worth now. Seems to be, there's all sorts of figures going around. This is why 90 million bids are being lashed in and all the rest of it. So it's a bit, and there's seen a lot of clubs just not selling their players. So I mean, if it is all the same by the end of tomorrow, Coutinho, Van Dijk, Sanchez, none of those have gone. So I don't know if that is. I know we talked about a shift previously. I don't know if it is a shift.
Yeah, because I disagreed, but I think the way the window's played out perhaps does bear out your thoughts that actually the clubs have got more power now than they have done previously.
I think that it's weird, but I think the money has got so ridiculous that it's almost worthless. So people are saying, "Oh, you can't turn down." People kept telling me the Coutinho bids can't turn down 110 million, but how are we going to spend that 110 million? And every club that comes in, it's the Lamar situation all over again. People know you've got money, so they're going to put an extra 20% on top of it.
Yeah, so if you'd have gone after Matuidi, for example, who I think went for 20 odd million, you probably would have been quoted 40.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I was going to say, I think that the Neymar deal is just. It's just blown everything out of water, hasn't it?
Mbappe as well today. That's finally gone through.
He's got a loan with an option to buy.
Yeah, it's sneaky.
Yeah, they're getting around things.
Yeah,
that's got to be looked at. Otherwise, it's pointless having a financial fair play.
Oh, it is.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me with these things going on. Yeah, it's interesting you made the point about Neymar actually, because I think it was already a strange window in terms of valuations, and I think that just skewed it even further.
Yeah.
I think that is, nobody really knows what anyone's worth. So people are going, "Oh, this player isn't worth that, and this player isn't worth that." We don't know. More than anything, any time before, I can never. If somebody said to you, "What's this player worth?" I'd be like, anything from ranging from 20 million to 55.
I'm seeing quotes saying Nasser Chadli was worth 25-30 million earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
But he is for West Brom, I suppose. He's an important player for them, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the Neymar deal is just put say 20-30 million pound more on every other player in the world.
Yeah,
certainly at the top level it seems.
Yeah.
What did you say the mood was like in the Coutinho camp? What was that tweet that you saw earlier?
There was a tweet saying there was a funeral atmosphere because his family had arrived by taxi to watch the game, and it must be dreadful watching games of football for Brazil, who are notorious for their doom and gloom atmosphere.
Whilst being a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, Yeah, so it's all gone a bit funny now, but I don't know. You never know with this stuff going on how much of it's been driven by the player, how much of it's been driven by agents, people around the player. People were very angry because Coutinho is playing for Brazil after having had a back injury, supposed back injury. But the thing is, people don't know whether the club may have told him that. The club may have said to him, your head's not in the right place, you're not playing for 3 weeks. Klopp may have said this to him, go away and we'll say you've got a back injury. So we don't know that he's crying off work sick, like pining for the Ramblers and the unfinished Cathedral. But who knows? It's all very strange, But I mean, it's still a day to go there. But hopefully we do keep hold of him because that'll be important. I think seeing as they've brought no one in, they'll have to really, unless they want the seats to be ripped up in the stadium, the brand new stadium and all that stuff. But and it's obviously been a good start on the pitch. Bar Watford have done well, so it's been exciting to watch. So I'm looking forward to more of the same after the international break.
Yeah, I've said to you, I'm quite envious.
Oxo Chamber on board, so yeah, it's gonna be good. But yeah. So that's probably my verdict on Liverpool. But let's, seeing as you're the happiest of us all so far, transfer deadline day with 2 deals going through.
I think one confirmed, but the photo would suggest that it's 2 so far. Yeah,
and possibly more coming in. You've been linked for a couple of other players.
It's still a bit weird what's hanging in the air because there's still talk that there could be a late push to get Barkley over the line, but my understanding is that his hamstring injury is too serious that he couldn't pass the medical, so I'm not sure if that's just media talk. So the 2 players that are in, Aurier, which I think is fantastic if he can sort his head out. I think he's a more than capable replacement of Kyle Walker.
I didn't actually realise how much of a colourful past he had, and I looked him up and I was like, oh wow. He's done some stuff.
Pochettino certainly have to rein him in.
Yeah.
But I think in his statement today when he signed, he did say that he needed to knuckle down and prove himself again. So bodes well. And to be honest, Spurs aren't the sort of club that will tolerate it if he don't. They will bomb him out. So
Pochettino I think is firm but fair, isn't he, quite often. So
it's unusual for us to take a chance on disruptive players if he's indeed that. I mean, I've heard that he's actually quite well liked in dressing rooms. He's just done some
off the pitch stuff.
Yes, it's the off the pitch stuff that's the problem which he needs to quell. But so quite pleased with that. Don't really think that Trippier would ever be my first choice right back. I think there's a lot of talk that he got found out again at the weekend against Burnley, which is kind of points out what I was saying about last year when he stepped in the team at first. I know he's more settled towards the end, but it certainly needed the challenge of somebody like Aurier coming in. And the pace, this has been what I've been saying to you guys all week, the pace, we have no pace in the side apart from with the wing back. So I was glad to get him in. Today, looks like Llorente. It was a surprise one when we all got up this morning that Spurs agreed that deal. I grant you that we needed a striker that wasn't Janssen, bless him. Because I still think he could come good with a run of games and a bit of confidence, but it doesn't look like he's going anywhere, which surprised me. Do you kind of expect him to go out on loan?
Well, that's what I would have thought, especially now if Llorente is confirmed. You would have thought that you send him out on loan for a season, just get his confidence back, and then, like I say, still a young player. Llorente is 32 now,
32.
So he's obviously probably got a few years left in him. So, like I said, I think he should just believe in Janssen, but you might have to just send him out on loan for him to get his confidence back. I think
it might end up being the perfect scenario for the club, especially because for Janssen it's World Cup year, and I think he leads the line. I think he started up front for Holland tonight. He's likely to lose that starting berth if he isn't playing for another 8-9 months. So. Yeah. I think it's in everyone's interests, but then if he's playing tonight, he's probably not going anywhere, is he? Because that's what the Lamar and Johnny Evans excuses have been used, that they couldn't possibly get deals done. So
couldn't do the medical, yeah.
Who put internationals on transfer deadline?
It's such a stupid idea, wasn't it? Have the transfer window close at exactly the same time as the next round of international qualifiers.
It brings a nice bit of chaos into it as well, doesn't it? Yeah, the extra thing to get round.
Typical football's management, but
where do you see just where do you see Llorente getting his game? Because it's going to be interesting because that I think Pochettino more than any manager feels to me very much like a one striker up front manager. But do you think he'll change that to get them both in, or do you think he'll rotate a lot and give Llorente more sort of league games?
I would think he'll rotate. I can't see that Pochettino would regularly use them as a 2. I don't know if they'd work as a 2.
Yeah, big man.
Well, I don't, because Kane does hold up the ball well. He can do good link-up play, and I suppose Llorente might be good for knockdowns, but it's hardly Crouch and Defoe, is it?
No.
So I'm not really sure how he fits into the system just yet, because it's not like we've got the wing backs, but we don't have pacey wingers to throw on to launch crosses into the box. So you're still heavily reliant on Aurier staying fit and Danny Rose staying fit. He'll probably play the cup games, as is a given these days. He probably might get some of the lesser level Premier League games, dare I say. I don't see him starting any of the bigger fixtures.
I guess he's a good option to have, isn't he? Say, I know we cocked this up last week as well, didn't we? But I've completely forgotten who's in your Champions League group. But say you've got a tough game Wednesday night in Champions League, and then you've got an early kick-off Saturday morning away at Burnley or somewhere like that. Then you can throw in Llorente for the Burnley game, give Harry Kane a bit of a rest, bring him on 60. You know, there's stuff like that is often quite useful and valuable. Bit of depth.
Yeah, and certainly the experience and the nous that he brings is something that the squad didn't have overly, and that the same could be said for Aurier because he's won plenty of titles in France. Broadly, as I say, I'm happy with what they've brought in. One thing I would say is they were supposed to be strengthening the squad because last year it wasn't deemed capable enough to cope with the rigours of the Champions League in a much weaker group. And really what they've done is get rid of 2 defenders, brought in 2 defenders, and added Llorente. So it's 3 defenders. 3 defenders in, 3 defenders out.
Foyth as well, and he's...
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if Foyth...
He's one for the development squad or what?
I mean, he again has said...
Sanchez.
That's right. Davinson Sanchez, yeah.
Sanchez as well, yeah.
I think he'll be thrown into things quite quickly. If you spend 40-odd million on a player, he's probably not going to be second string.
But then you've got probably the best centre-back pairing in the league as well, so it's interesting to see where he'll
I think they'll play a 3.
You think?
Yeah, I think it'll be a
3 and then
do a
wing backs.
3-5-2.
Yeah, and maybe that's why, again, myself and many other Spurs fans on the forums and such have been calling for a pacey player in the attacking areas. But I suppose if they play a 3-5-3 or with the wing backs, then
It's 12 players.
That's how we're going to win this title. We need them at Wembley. Perhaps that's how they're going to work it with, like say, Aurier and Rose higher up.
Yeah, I suppose it's horses for courses, isn't it? But I suppose with that kind of system, a lot of your pace does come from the wing backs anyway, doesn't it? I know for Chelsea last year they had similar things with Moses going on, less so with Alonso on the other side. But you need at least one who can go, don't you?
I think I'm excited by the changes made have improved the overall quality of the squad, if not the depth you might need to. I mean, you consider, say, even now, you consider the Spurs squad beyond the first 15 compared to United, maybe City, Liverpool, I would argue now. I don't know whether there's enough there, even off the back of this transfer window day. Gomez may still come in tonight. There's still talk of possibly Barkley, although, like I said, the injury seems to curtail that.
Yeah.
But again, the Gomez one interests me because I think, well, it's an area Spurs are well stocked. So I don't know, again, other than as cover, I don't know who he gets in ahead of because you've got Eriksen, Ali, Son, you've got Dembele, Dyer and Wanyama if you're talking about him playing deeper. You've already got 6. I don't know where he then fits in.
It feels to me, Mark, I don't know if it does from looking outside, that Pochettino is a bit of a very much a plan A sort of, bit like Klopp as well. Very much he's not one for tinkering around with the system, so he's going to buy players who help his plan A become better, even if they're squad players who can then come in, but they'll still be doing sort of broadly the same job as the player they're replacing. He's not going to sort of not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and start throwing around loads of different systems. Although Dan, has said that
fallen back into type.
Yeah, has been saying that they'll play 3 in the back. But I think everything that he's doing is probably geared towards that 3 in the back system, whereas he's buying squad players or first teamers.
Well, yeah, I mean, he could go obviously and change formation, but the thing is, why would he? Because you've had great success over the last couple of seasons. I know not been quite good enough to win the league, but you're either doing that. But another thing that I think you needed to do is just get a bit more squad depth. Because I think it didn't really work out that way when you lost Harry Kane last season, because Son came in and scored quite a few goals. But say if like you say you get some injuries elsewhere, you're looking quite light. So I think he's sold, obviously, apart from Carl Walker, he's probably sold squad players and then got in a little bit better, because you've obviously sold Walker, you've got in Uria, you sold Wimmer, but got in Sanchez and Foyth to an extent, and then obviously you've just gone for a little bit more up front, which I think you need, because as we've seen this last season, Vincent Janssen hasn't showed yet he can be a good backup for Harry Kane.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should make clear that on the whole, I am pleased with the business that's been done. I do think the overall squad has been strengthened to what it was. Like you say, a like for like. We haven't seen Davinson play enough yet, but he seems like a grade up on Wimmer, for example, who didn't do a lot wrong.
Quite an opposing defender from what I've seen of him. Sort of, Davinson Sanchez, that is.
Strong, pacey, can play either wing back or centre half, so I suppose they've got a little bit of cover there. But I'm quite interested to know, I say as neutral fans, I know obviously you're a Gooner, but as neutrals looking on what Spurs have done, what do you think? Do you think the business they've done has been something that will elevate them? Do you think it will maintain, or do you not think they did quite enough?
I take your point about the pacey players. I would, if I was a Spurs fan, I'd want 1 or 2 more quick players in there. That being said, it's a very solid body of work over the transfer window. I don't think you particularly...
Sorry. Joel Campbell just been loaned out again.
Sick for loan in his Arsenal career.
He'll get a game there one day. He will.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I think defensively wise, you really, considering Cole Walker's left, you really haven't been weakened in that area at all. In fact, if anything, perhaps the manager's made up with it with more numbers. He's slightly strengthened that area, which was not a concern anyway. So I think he's probably improved it. I would say, whether it's enough, it may not quite be. He's brought in a lot of players for his plan A, backup players. I think it may not quite be enough to see a huge stride forward. So you might end up maintaining a place, or you might, because of the nature of the league this season, you might drop a place or 2 because you obviously finished second last year.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I don't. It certainly doesn't feel like, huge backward steps or anything like that.
No,
like
not at all.
Positive, constructive kind of summer for Spurs, I think.
I think they've been quite shrewd. I mean, you look at the sales of Wimmer and Walker for a combined £68 million, and then they've bought in Davinson for 40 odd, and then Aurier today for 23. So they've actually made a £5-6 million profit.
Yeah.
On those changes for upgrades on what was there. So I mean, there's no doubting that once again Daniel Levy has shown his nous.
Gets that reputation, doesn't he? I suppose one of the other thing is Spurs have managed not to lose anyone of huge note. Kyle Walker's a bit of a blow, but then having said that, if you were Spurs and you said, okay, you're going to use one of your players, but you're going to keep Eriksen, you're going to keep Ali, you're going to keep Kane. I think Spurs, you'd probably take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and do you know what? It did dawn on me first thing this morning that a couple of years ago, this sort of day, you'd be frightened about losing a Berbatov, losing a Keane.
Yeah.
And there was absolutely no danger of that happening today, really. So yeah, you're right. It's good to point out to fans who are a bit fickle sometimes, always wanting more. But yeah, I think if you'd have said at the start of the summer you won't lose any of your key players, most fans would be quite pleased about that.
Yeah, and the players you've brought in as well. I was going to say, I think Pochettino has been quite clever in the transfer business he's done so far, because I think you are going to be a little bit of a reduced budget with the new stadium going on. So
that is something that they've had to work, and Arsenal had that, didn't they?
So also I know about it, but it's not a case that you've bought. Well, I guess we'll find out. But on paper, you haven't bought in second-rate players to replace these big names that you've lost.
Yeah, and that's no disrespect against some of the players they've bought in previous years, but bringing in, should it happen, an Andre Gomez compared to, say, George, Kevin and Kodu, there's obviously a disparity in the quality there, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come over the next few windows.
Yeah, no, I think I think you've done well in this transfer window so far. I mean, still hour and 20 minutes to go.
Anything could happen. He's going to sell the entire squad off now, isn't he? Just going to sell Spurs to Chelsea.
My God. Perish, I thought I'm not putting this up until I know.
At least they'll have to play at Wembley though, then they'll have to undergo the curse.
Still loose.
Yeah. I think, not only have they, obviously Walker went, but not only have the rest of the players stayed, there hasn't even really been a mention of them leaving. I know Ericsson, the odd rumour about
Eric Dyer at one point, possibly to United.
But United, but it never seemed serious, did it? So, impressed. I think it'll be, like I say, I don't see any reason why it won't be another strong season for Spurs. Continue to go from strength to strength. I think this Wembley thing will dissipate quite quickly.
I wonder if we can approach the MK Dons, just to move down there like they did.
I thought you were going to say to maybe take another one of their youngsters, like you did with
Dele Alli was there, wasn't he?
Oh, if they were half as successful, I'd be all over that. But
so I suppose we can rate. You're probably the happiest. What number are you giving out of 10 for your?
A number out of 10. I'd come up with
it's
a letter.
Difficult because a letter. Okay, no, we'll do a letter.
What, you give them grades, like grades?
Yeah. I think if Llorente's confirmed, you're probably looking at a B plus for the window. B plus for the window.
B plus.
Yeah.
Solid. If Coutinho stays, I'm going to give it a B minus. I think some good business done, but one or two missed out. So, but we still look boss at the moment, so that's good. Mark,
I'm going to. This would have been lower if we'd stupidly sold Sanchez and not bought anyone in. But the fact we haven't bought anyone in, but the fact we've kept Sanchez, it's going to be an E.
An E
would have been an F if Sanchez gone and then we couldn't mean to bring anyone in.
Yeah, and I feel like F is as low as it can go.
Yeah. Or ungraded.
I'd forgotten about ungraded.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
an N.
There's an N.
Yeah.
Was there an N?
It's something like nearly graded or something like that.
Is that seriously what it stands for? It's the best they could come up with.
It's literally, halfway down the alphabet and then you go all the way down to you. Okay, well, let's just have a look around the brief wider world of transfer activity. In general speaking, obviously City didn't quite get the business they wanted to do today, but they've still had a pretty good summer really. Seem to have signed a whole defence and a goalkeeper, so that's not bad, and another attacking player in Bernardo Silva. And if actually, because there was quite a few rumours that Aguero was going to go as well, they seem to have kept hold of him, which I think is a good move.
To be honest, I think they'd be silly to sell him. Unless it was a swap deal for Sanchez to Arsenal, then I
did see that movie. I did like it on Monday when City were like, "Oh, we'll give you Sterling," and Arsenal were like, "We'll take Aguero," and then it just went quiet from there.
Yeah.
Like, that won't happen.
Yeah. That was exactly my thinking.
You're all right, thanks.
That was exactly my thinking.
Although I actually think Arsenal would have got a good end of the deal there. My feelings on Sterling are well known. I think Sanchez. he's obviously 29. Sterling's got great potential, but
I just don't think Sterling was what we really needed.
Probably not.
We need more of a sort of, because obviously if we lost Sanchez, that the goals we would have lost, we would have needed someone like.
I don't know. Can Sterling manage?
that feels harsh, but also kind of funny. That's where we're at. Okay, United seemed to get everything done quite quickly and efficiently. There was another player they were after. I think it's Perisic, but didn't quite happen.
No.
But you have to look at their squad now, and the balance of it looks probably it's probably going toe to toe with City as the deepest sort of squad in the league.
I think United have got the best squad, but I think City have got the strongest attack.
Yeah, it's true. It'll be interesting to see how those two go. But I'm quite impressed with it. I think Matic makes perfect sense in a Mourinho team, and all the signs are already he's fitting in brilliantly. In fact, the United fans I've heard from, although Lukaku's obviously made an impression, have actually been more impressed with Matic. Seem to have had seamless transition with the defender Lindelof, who's coming as well. They haven't conceded any goals, so.
I don't think he's played yet, though.
Oh, is he not?
That might be why they haven't conceded any goals.
There's my knowledge going down the drain.
I think
we do occasionally do research for this show.
No, I think he played a European game, and he looked a little bit shaky, and so Mourinho is sort of taking him out of the firing line for the Premier League. He's going to try and bed him in.
What, against Bedford Town and Northampton and all the Peterborough and all the rest of the really really difficult teams I've had to play so far.
Exactly.
I sound bitter. I'm not. We're only 2 points behind them, and it's 3 games in.
Probably
need to play for.
Probably bring him in for the Merseyside derby now.
Yeah.
Quick update on the breaking news of tonight, because we haven't really done anything in the last sort of 40 minutes or so. Nothing is happening.
Nothing is happening, listeners. You're listening to nothing.
Jim White, take your tie off. Stop overplaying it like a drama queen. There is nothing. There's nothing going on.
Actually, if this transfer window is quite bad for Arsenal already, who we were after, Thomas Lemar has scored 2 goals for France tonight, apparently, including an absolute screamer, which I've not yet seen, but I'll take a look at that later.
He obviously, £92 million bid's going in for him does his confidence a world of good. Obviously.
I'm just hoping that he has to go for I said the game's probably finished now, isn't it? But I was just saying goes for a medical with us at half time.
I reckon he'll get like hijacked, kidnapped by Wenger. Just forced onto a plane, and then perhaps Wenger, if it is true that he prefers Liverpool, Wenger will put on a Jurgen Klopp mask and do a German accent.
I'd like to see that.
Maybe we should act that out. Do a little Facebook Live at the end.
Okay, if you want to provide the masks, I think we can do it.
Could be difficult to source in 15 minutes. But never say never.
I'm sure any fancy dress shops are open. So.
We could probably print some out. I mean, I don't have a printer, but.
There's a drawback.
Yeah, so it may not happen today.
So we've digressed into nonsense, which isn't our want. But Chelsea, Dan, has been probably a frustrating window for them. They've had all this Costa rubbish. Seem to have missed out on a plethora of new signings who've ended up going elsewhere. Oxlade, Chamberlain, and Llorente being the latest one. So. Still a bit of a small squad, I would say.
It's been quite good to see, hasn't it? Chelsea.
I have to admit I have enjoyed it. Although I'm still wary that there's 1 hour 10 minutes in which they can put in a massive bid for Virgil van Dijk and then land him. So I'm still slightly worried about that scenario. But,
I've never forgiven them for the Willian
that
situation a couple of years ago. So I'm quite happy to see that players seem to be. Getting hooked away by other sides at the last minute. Obviously, it looks very much like Spurs have signed Llorente, although it's not been officially confirmed. And then they've obviously lost out on Lukaku this summer, who went to Manchester United. And there was one other that they were in for that they didn't get. Oxlade Chamberlain. There we go. We were talking about him.
Furious that he missed out.
Well, I'm delighted. I couldn't be happier about the fact that they're furious.
Well, whether or not they're going to miss out on this one. It looks like, because we've all been wondering, where is Riyad Mahrez after being allowed to leave leave the Algerian training camp early this morning. We've heard nothing, but
Yeah.
a lot
I
of
told
things.
you he's at Charles de Gaulle Airport. He likes it there. He's
Maybe
he's getting smashed on duty free. That's what he's doing.
a lot of rumours that I've seen so far are linking him with Chelsea.
Yeah, that seems to be the running theme, but it does seem to have gone weirdly quiet. Or I don't know if they just bundled him into the back of a van. And
You'd kind of think that if you
Taken
get
into
released from your
Chopper.
international camp in the early hours of the morning for the
To sort
purposes
out,
of
yeah.
completing a transfer, that
Yeah.
you must have something relatively lined up.
I know.
But it would appear that he's got nothing. So whether anything's fallen through during the day, but Leicester said they haven't had any bids. Which,
yeah.
what did he leave for then? On the off chance that something would be agreed, I assume. It'd be quite embarrassing. It'd be almost Peter Odd and Wingy like.
I was just going to say.
brings up shades of that, doesn't it?
Another one, but another one for the Chelsea that may or may not go through. Danny Drinkwater's been rumbling on with it or won't it, but not long left for that one to be.
Yeah, nothing going on. I'd heard they had a little nibble at Vardy as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
I heard that.
Breaking news.
Danny, as you said.
Oh,
Mark,
that's
look
weird.
at this. This is incredible. Danny Drinkwater is holed up at Chelsea's training ground at Chobham in Surrey, awaiting permission from Leicester to undergo a last-minute medical, according to Sky sources.
So in other words, Leicester will agree to it at 10:59, and then it won't be time to complete the deal.
Yeah, or 11:01.
Yeah.
Or it'll be like De Gea and somebody's fax machine will break.
You'd have to say that if they do let this happen so close to the deadline, that surely that kills any idea of them letting Mahrez go as well at the last minute.
Well, you would have thought so, I suppose, but then...
But
yeah.
Mahrez is able, as far as we know.
But we don't know where he's gone.
He's done Diego Costa, only he's not actually been in touch with anybody.
Maybe he's gone to Diego Costa's house, having a bit of a party round there.
I'll send out a search party in a minute.
I like it. Excellent. I love the fact that we've had some breaking news, although it is according to Sky sources, other websites are available.
Not to be trusted.
I didn't say that. I just inferred it.
It's what you meant, and we all know it.
Any other good bits of business floating around? I think we mentioned, obviously Everton have been big movers.
Signed another player today,
Yeah.
Nikola Vlasic.
So you know they've certainly filled up a squad. They still look a bit one pace to me. I haven't watched them so far, but you know, like I say, they've got options there now.
Biggest complaint from Everton fans apparently is that they haven't sorted the problem that has been glaring them in the face for the last 6 weeks or so, which has been they still don't actually have the out and out up top striker that they needed to replace Lukaku.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that's resolved, isn't it?
Don't know about anything about this Vlasic, but maybe he's the man.
Maybe he will be.
He's a
Although
winger, I think, isn't he? Or...
Yeah, maybe youngster anyway.
we've still another youngster, and they have got Sandro Ramirez, which is also another relative youngster they've brought in. So
Not an out and out striker either, though, is
No.
he? But there was talk they wanted another striker, but whether Vlasic was the one they wanted to get or he was just one for the future.
Diego Costa on loan till Christmas.
Well, that was being talked about, wasn't it?
Do you know what? I'd almost like to see that. I'd love to see Diego Costa in a Merseyside derby. It would be incredible. Things would go off all over the place. Probably both sides would just end with 5 players.
Right.
It would be incredible. But it doesn't look like that. It looks like he's going to end up in exile unless something dramatic happens in the next hour. I just imagine Diego Costa being holed up in like the Scarface mansion for some reason. Just getting ever more paranoid. We love you, Diego. Anything else?
Let me think. West Ham been awful.
Yeah, they've been a dreadful start, hasn't it? But
Good signing in Javier Hernandez, but they've got they seem to have a problem with Diafra Sacco. What's going on there? Apparently he seemed to be going. West Ham will come out and said he's not going anywhere, but apparently he's been going off for medicals without permission. So not all's well at West Ham.
The thing is, I think the other year they got his back up, didn't they? Because the board there, David Gold, David Sullivan, were sort of saying, we know that our priority is to go and get a really big name striker for the fans. And I think it actually really annoyed him because he was like, well, you're basically saying, I'm not up to it, mate. So ever since then, I think his relationship with West Ham has been probably a bit strained.
He's been constantly injured as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Well, it's yeah, I think it's a weird one with West Ham as well because they just seem to have so many options up front that you forget about. Like, I forget that Andy Carroll's a thing because he's always injured and then he turns up out of nowhere. We've got Lanzini, they've got
Andre Ayew.
Yeah. So
They've done well to keep Lanzini. I thought somebody would have come and taken him, to be honest.
Yeah.
With the money that's
been a whisper of that. Really,
not at all. No. So Joe Hart was a strange one because obviously questionable as to whether he's a real step up on Adrian.
Yeah, his decline has been sort of quite sort of dramatic, really, isn't it? In the last couple of years, I used to think he was a really solid goalkeeper, but.
Well, really... Southgate's implied he's going to start for England tomorrow, just in case anyone's forgot that England are playing tomorrow. Apparently.
Who are they playing?
I think it's Malta.
Oh, is it?
Malta, tricky game.
This is how much the international football means until you get to the tournament now, isn't it? No one seems to care.
It just becomes an inconvenience in the way of the Premier League.
I think that's the trouble. The league's only been back a couple of weeks and already we're having to pause. It's just nonsensical.
It's a different show, but I've often wondered why they can't do a little mini tournament at the end or beginning of each season. But Newcastle, that's been also dreadful for them. Really nothing happening.
Got Hosselu in.
Yeah.
A couple of defenders, haven't they? But
what does that say about West Ham? An awful Newcastle absolutely battered them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, mate. Yeah, I mean,
because that Newcastle squad is bang average.
Yeah.
It's a championship side, and they'll win in the championship most weeks with that side. But they've come up, and it hasn't been reinforced with any real quality, and yet they still battered a fairly expensively assembled West Ham, I suppose.
Yeah, I wonder if. It's a funny one with West Ham, isn't it? Because you think, well, they've had to play 3 away games in a row because of this World Athletics Championships. But then you think, well, the home form was dreadful last year. So, if anything, that should help them. But they've been, they're a bit unlucky in the Southampton game. But against Newcastle and United, they were just dreadful. So, you do wonder sort of exactly how... whether it's another one of these things because we're in this weird little 3-game run, which is almost, a mini season in itself, and they pick up after the international break. They've got Huddersfield at home, first game back. So, although they've started well, you'd still fancy West Ham at home. But yeah, it's an odd one, and it's the same for Newcastle. Obviously, they've had that good win, but I can't see it being any easier with them not being allowed to sort of spend any money, reinforce things. It's getting very sad up there, to be honest, I think.
Mark Ashley's running out of money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Seems like it.
But he's very, very careful, isn't he, on the purse strings. So.
The thing is, I think he probably realises the best Newcastle are going to achieve is mid-table, and does he really want to push the boat out for that possibility when, if they can just maintain themselves up there, 15th, 16th, then that's enough without him having to overstretch, like you say, on the budget. I don't know.
That shouldn't be the existence for a club like Newcastle.
No, not with that following as well.
It's not right.
It's important up there, more so than many places, and it's a shame for a club of that stature.
Yeah.
With that fan base to be. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? I think we should give an honorary mention to Swansea.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mention Swansea. You've got notes down there. Yeah, Swansea's incredible. Update, Mahrez is still in Paris. Oh, he's popped up in Paris. He's been there 10 hours. What's he doing? Going around the Notre Dame Cathedral and the Sacré-Cœur? Experience all the fine cuisine that Paris has to offer? I don't know. Sorry about this.
It's kind of answered our question about where he is.
Well, true.
I'm glad we've closed that by the end of the podcast. It's good to have closure.
Yeah, I imagine he's having a lovely snap by the Eiffel Tower, or perhaps a tour down the Seine, which is lovely. I've been to Paris.
Yeah, I've done that. It's pleasant.
It is. It's good. Good on you, Riyad.
Back to Swansea.
Swansea.
We were talking about Swansea. Mark, incredible deal they pulled off with Renato Sanchez, getting him on loan for a year, which is going to really compensate for Sigurdsson going.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When that first broke that might happen, I was thinking, nah, that's not gonna happen. And then obviously it did. I mean, I think it's a big sort of credit to Paul Clement, who's obviously knows him personally for working with him for Bayern Munich. So I think if Swansea didn't have Paul Clement as manager, I don't think that transfer would have happened.
No, of course not. But it'd be interesting to see if it does raise the Swansea profile. If they sort of finish mid-table and have a good year, will that open the door for the potential of other players to come in that perhaps were unattainable before?
Well, absolutely. I mean, players are looking to say, "Oh, look, I could be playing alongside this guy."
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
Talk of Bonnie coming back as well. I don't know if that's confirmed or not.
I think
it's still rumoured.
I heard that
Still rumbling.
Yeah, I heard Swansea and City had agreed a deal for him, and he was flying for a medical. But
I think that'd be really big for them because he was really successful first time out for them, wasn't he? And he was really popular there as well. Hasn't really kicked on anywhere since. So.
It's the Stoke move that I've never understood, because I thought he'd be week in, week out. I thought he'd start for Stoke. I thought he'd get quite a few goals for Stoke, and
it didn't happen, did it?
It just doesn't seem to even get game time there. So whether
no, he only went on loan.
Yeah, I realised.
So he's back at City now. But yeah, I think he played it. He started a few games, didn't he? Didn't really sort of cut the mustard. Didn't score any. Actually, no, I think he scored 2 in one game, and that was the only goals he scored. I'm trying to remember now. I'm pretty sure.
All I know is Stoke are now reliant on Peter Crouch scoring for them again.
Yeah. At the grand old age of 768.
It's incredible.
Love Peter Crouch as well, but yeah. Any other clubs you think done good business? I think we're starting to wrap up, but I wanted to give, like I say, Swansea honorary mention. Anyone else you think deserves one?
Possibly Leicester. I think Leicester have done quite well. They've again kept hold of most of the core of those players that they wanted to. So Vardy still hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
And also added to it with Maguire and Iheanacho, which I think are good additions.
I think Maguire's good. I like him, and actually I like both players. I think Iheanacho looks a really strong player as well. I suppose they could still theoretically lose Mahrez and Drinkwater, although Mahrez is apparently just wandering around Paris, so perhaps he's just gone shopping. But
speaking of Paris, I suppose the fact that just made me think of Krakowiak, who's come to West Brom.
Yes,
I think that's an amazing loan signing for West Brom. Yeah, very, very talented guy. Didn't really settle in Paris. I think he'll be fantastic for them.
Yeah, he'll strengthen an already strong sort of team because he's a defensive midfielder, isn't he? And they also have managed to keep hold of Johnny Evans, permitting any last minute.
Kieran Gibbs.
Yeah, signed Kieran Gibbs. They've done quite a good bit of business.
Yeah, it looks solid, don't they?
Hopefully they'll look beyond the 40 points this year, as we keep joking, and actually continue beyond April.
41 points this year.
It depends if they decide to play 2 up top, because obviously long balls up to Rondon doesn't really work sometimes.
Is he still there?
Yeah.
He's their main outlet, really.
He is.
Attacking. I mean, they've got a few other decent attacking players, but he's the big one. I think they got up front. Okay, gents. Well, I think that's been a rather enjoyable transfer show on deadline day.
Sorry if we haven't spoken about your club, but they probably just didn't do enough to interest us.
I suppose I can mention Stoke have a pretty decent backline now with Martin Zindi, Zuma, and a player who I've completely forgotten the name of who they brought in. Who was it? Somebody will know.
When did they do this?
I've thrown a grenade into the podcast.
When did they do this? Is it
I
recent?
think it was yesterday, and it was somebody I'm familiar with, and now I've completely forgotten who it is.
Alright.
I'm useless at research.
Yeah,
Mark's looking it up, so let's talk about other things while we
okay, Huddersfield have brought in like 13 players.
I was going to say Huddersfield. I like that. Yeah, I think it's quite good. They've started the season well. Obviously, the manager knows what he wants. I mean, you'd be surprised to see him maintain.
Does he though? Because 13 signings is quite scattergun. Does he know what he wants, or has he gone for depth and just hope that the bodies get him over the line?
I think there's probably an element of that, but he's got a certain sort of style of play as well, hasn't he? So I think he may be slightly wedded to that.
Because Brighton have done likewise, brought in several players.
Yeah, they've also brought in quite a few,
But they've not had the same start, have they?
No, well I mean Huddersfield seemed, certainly on the opening day and indeed in the following week, they obviously they had a striker scoring goals. I think that's Brighton's big problem. They just don't seem to from what I've seen so far, they're going to struggle to score goals in the league. Have you got the Stoke player?
I have, and Dan should have got it.
Oh, it was Kevin Wimmer.
Yeah.
Of course it was Kevin.
He's Kevin.
Any Red Dwarf fans out there? Going to recognise that? I always think of that whenever I hear his name as well. Wonderful. Okay, well on that note, Kevin Wimmer, I think we'll leave it here for this week. It's been an enjoyable transfer deadline day podcast. Still an hour to go as we talk, so who knows? Something big might get over the line, but we doubt it. We've been Score to Follow, and we'll see you next time.